Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new, my name is Ellen. Today I'm making a little bit of a different video compared to my previous videos on my channel. I never thought I would make a video like this, but I am proud of my accomplishments so far. I decided to make a video telling you about how I lost weight during quarantine. I have watched so many different weight loss videos on YouTube just to give me motivation during the times where I've really needed it, so I hope that this video can be that for you if you need it right now. So before I get into it, just feel free to leave a like, feel free to comment below if you have a question or if you want to share your weight loss story, if you find similarities between your story and mine. So my weight loss story might be a little bit different compared to other ones for a few reasons. Mainly because I ended up losing weight during a pandemic, so it wasn't how I would have maybe typically done it if we weren't literally in a pandemic. Also because I struggled with my mental health a lot before, during, and currently throughout my weight loss journey. So I will kind of get into that as well because it definitely plays into how I ended up losing weight. And I don't think I'll be repeating the typical advice of drink more water, eat more fruits and vegetables, exercise more. Not that that isn't great advice, but I feel like we kind of all know that by now. I feel like my weight loss story is a lot more centered around mental health and just in general eating well. I could probably talk for hours and hours about how I got to where I am now, but I want to try and keep it concise in this video. So yeah, I'm just gonna do my best to kind of sum it up as simply as I can. I'm just gonna give you guys a little bit of background to kind of give you some context on how I got to where I am now first, before I jump into like actually how I lost the weight recently. I gained like the freshman 30. So I gained a lot of weight right after high school and I just kind of stayed the same. So in college, it's not like I wasn't active. I definitely was. So I did weightlifting in college, but then I kind of fell off and then I gained even more as I graduated college. I thought that I was gonna be able to just lose it all when I got a corporate job, but newsflash, that didn't happen, and it doesn't happen for a lot of people. It's not that easy. Anyways, in 2017, I started my first corporate job, like doing regular adult things, and that didn't work. I gained like 20 or 30 pounds that year. And then in 2018, I had gotten fed up with the weight I had gained in the end of college and in 2017. So don't come for me, but I got roped into isogenics, and I'm totally anti-MLM, but I will give it credit. I did lose weight on it, but that's because I was eating like 1,200 calories a day. That's why I lost weight, because I was going from whatever I was eating before, which was probably like 2,000 plus calories a day, to 1,200 calories a day. And I did that for like a month, and I really burned out on that because I was like only eating 1,200 calories a day, which was just not enough food. I dropped off that, and yeah, I don't know why I got roped into that. I think I was so desperate for like a solution. Don't do MLMs, just whatever you do, don't do that. But anyways, I also had really gotten into my health, so I started looking into more holistic healing and more whole food type diets, anti-inflammatory diets, blah, blah, blah. So I started the autoimmune protocol diet in 2018, and I did that very strictly, like the elimination phase, very strictly from like May to August. And I actually was really proud of myself because I didn't cheat. I was very strict on my elimination phase, and I did lose a lot of weight. I think I got down to 200 pounds, or like maybe like 198 by September of that year. That was the last time I wore a swimsuit, for context. Like I just wore a swimsuit 2 weekends ago, but for 3 years I did not wear a swimsuit. So I've been very self-conscious ever since then, because after I did the 2-month elimination phase, you're supposed to slowly reintroduce foods to see if one of them is a trigger food, or like triggers a flare in an autoimmune condition that you have, or just if your body feels bad after you eat it, things like that. Just to look for common triggers that your body will give you after eating a food. So I did that, then I kind of fell off. I was like proud of myself that I did the 2 months, and then after the 2 months I was like, okay, I can just go back to the way I'm eating again, and I gained a bunch of weight again. And then in 2019 I found out that I had hypothyroidism, and I found out that I had Hashimoto's too, so just both of them. So I was more focused on trying to eat a little bit healthier, but then a lot of things happened in 2019. It was just kind of like a very big year for me. So I had a really major surgery, and then like 2 weeks after the surgery, I moved from Minnesota to Arizona, and that was a huge move for me. Then once I moved to Arizona, I was obviously really happy to be here, but I was also really depressed and like having really weird like paranoia and anxiety about like leaving my apartment and like going places, and I've never had that before. So I started seeing a therapist, therapist and I started going to a nutritionist because I was really fed up with all the weight I had gained in 2019 as well. I think I gained like probably 20 or 30 pounds again. So later that summer in 2019, I started seeing a therapist for the first time ever. I had never seen one before, and then a dietitian for the first time. So I feel like I tried so many things and I was like, okay, at this point, obviously I need to just go see a dietitian and see what they recommend. And so the dietitian did help me kind of just keep myself accountable. So I kind of learned like what balanced meals I could easily fit into my day. And so she really helped me see that. And she actually helped me understand how many calories I should be eating per day. Because up until that point, I genuinely thought I should be eating like 1,200 calories a day. And when I told her that, she was like, oh no. And then we obviously worked on macros and stuff. I had a tracking app that I used. It wasn't MyFitnessPal, it was one through her company. So that actually really helped me like figure out what macros I should actually be eating. But I was lucky enough to be able to do that. And then I started working out a little bit more in the end of 2019 and I finally felt like I was getting my ish back together. I had gone to a therapist, gone to a dietitian, started working out again with a personal trainer with my friend. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm checking all the boxes, like I feel really great. And then obviously coronavirus came. So that's kind of like where my actual weight loss begins, is because I lost a little bit of weight in the end of 2019 when I kind of like went to the dietitian and went to a personal trainer and started working out again. I lost like a little bit of weight, but I think I was sitting around like 245 at that point. And then I ended up gaining even more weight once COVID started. And obviously like I was super depressed and super stressed. So I'll kind of tell you now what I did for my actual weight loss, because I fluctuated, as you can tell, a lot up until my highest weight, but yeah, let me get into actually how I lost the weight. So to start off, my highest weight was 265.8 pounds in May of 2020. So from March until May, I don't think I saw anyone. Like I was literally in my apartment just chilling by myself. And I also didn't work out and I didn't eat healthy at all. So the stress and the overeating and the not working out really caught up with me. And I think I gained like 20 pounds in like less than 3 months. So obviously I was not feeling the greatest, and it was coming up on my 25th birthday and I had finally stepped on the scale again to kind of like check where I was, and I was just like the worst feeling, just like knowing that you don't feel good, you feel mentally and physically like the worst you've ever felt. And then just to see the number on top of that was really like, wow, this is where my life is at. And I really didn't think I'd be here at 25, almost 25. So it was really kind of like a quarter life crisis, like wake up call, I guess. I really was like, okay, I gotta do something, like anything. I can do something about it. So for reference, my starting weight in May 2020 was 265, and then now I'm 200. I did plateau for a bit, so I've been kind of like stagnant for a while, but I did officially hit like under 200 pounds this week. So I think all in all that's like 16 months, and I had always imagined it in my head to be so much faster because I constantly put timelines of like, oh, I'm gonna hit this pounds by this date, this many pounds by this date, and I've done that for my whole life. Like I've always been like, oh my gosh, by this date I'm gonna be this many pounds, and it never works. Maybe for some people, but I think for most people, setting a date where you're going to be at a goal weight never works. I did see a few other videos talking about rewarding themselves for being consistent by a certain date rather than being at a goal weight, and I think that is a much better way to motivate yourself. So looking back at where I started and why I started, I obviously was not feeling great about myself. I was just feeling extremely depressed. I've never really had to deal with eating disorders before, but I definitely started having issues with binge eating. I think I've always kind of had a tendency to overeat, so I had to work on that. In 2020, that was like one of the first things that I wanted to work on. Was binge eating, and I also had heard from my previous therapist in 2019 that she recommended Noom to me, which I don't know if you've heard of Noom, but it's like a psychology-based weight loss app. I don't recommend it. I think it's bad. But I tried it because I was like, I've done the MyFitnessPal thing, I've done like the Fitbit thing, I've done whatever, and none of them really worked for me. So I was like, well, I've been kind of working on my mental health more. What have I got to lose? Like I paid $150, I think, for 6 months, and I paid for a coach and everything. And like, if you want me to talk about Noom and my experience, I can make another video on that, but it was not worth the money at all. So don't do Noom, but this is just like this is part of my journey. I tried Noom. I did like it for the accountability aspect, and I did like it for like the weight loss graph. That's the only reason I still use it to this day. I use the free version of it now, just because it has my original starting weight, because it's like the only app that has like my full weight loss journey. So I won't get rid of it just because it has like the perfect graph on it that I'm like, I can't get rid of the graph. And I do like the weight loss graph on Noom better than MyFitnessPal, so I just update them both. Call me crazy. I just like the graph on Noom better. Okay, but anyways, I'll list off the things that I did that I think really helped contribute to my weight loss from May 2020 until now, and then I'll kind of go into depth on each one and like what I think about them and how I did them. I met with a therapist. I started meditating and saying positive things about myself. I would recommend going to the doctor to get blood work done to see if you can find anything that might be contributing to your weight gain. I used calorie counting apps like MyFitnessPal. I partially did an elimination diet due to my autoimmune conditions. I used calendars to track workouts. I did living room workouts and walks outdoors, and I took progress pictures and measurements monthly. Well, I didn't take progress pictures monthly, I took them kind of sporadically, but I took measurements, or I still do, I take measurements monthly. So those are kind of the things I did that I feel like mostly contributed to my weight loss. I have started countless weight loss journeys and never really been able to follow through. So that's why this time I'm like, oh my gosh, I actually did it. Oh my gosh. And I'm not quite done yet. Like I still have more to go, but to have even lost 65 pounds is just like insane to me because I've never lost that amount of weight before. I've also never gained that much weight before, but I've never lost that much weight before. So this is like a pretty big deal to me to be back down to 200 pounds where I was 3 years ago. And that was really the last time I felt confident in myself. So I finally feel confident again, and I'm not anywhere near what I thought like my ideal weight would be or my ideal body or whatever. I feel really good though, and that's all that really matters. I feel great and I have a good routine going, and I have just a good routine. That was my original goal with therapy anyway. But let me not get off track. So I recognize that I definitely had the privilege to work with a therapist, a dietitian, a personal trainer to get me to this point in the first place, and to go to the doctor and get blood work done, because I know not everybody has access to that. So it's definitely not necessary, but if you have the means to do that, I highly, highly recommend it. It just helped me understand the nutrition side of things, and it helped me understand the importance of your mental health on your weight loss journey, because I really think like the difference between all my other attempts at losing weight and then me actually doing it now was the mental aspect. I had never worked on my mental health before ever in my life until 2019. It made all the difference. So if you can manage to work with a therapist or just even work like on meditating on your own, just through like YouTube videos or through like a meditation app or just music or podcasts or however you think it would benefit you, just that alone can really help. But if you are curious about meeting with a therapist, it is extremely expensive. So the first 2 therapists I met with, because I've had a different therapist every year, not for like any reason besides I've had kind of like different reasons going into therapy each time, so I've looked for a therapist that kind of specializes in the issue that I'm working on. The first 2 times I got a therapist, I had to wait until I hit my deductible with my health insurance so that it would be free, because I was not about to pay like $100 to $200 per week to meet with a therapist. That was just way too much more than I could afford at the time. So I just waited until I hit my deductible, and then my insurance covered it. Anyways, that is off on a tangent, but I think that is really, 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 really worth it. So if you can manage to meet with a therapist, I think it's worth it. And then speaking of getting blood work at the doctor, I think it's worth it to go get checked. Ask your doctor for regular blood work, but also ask them to test for like TSH, free T3, free T4, and I forgot. I have another video on my channel about kind of like specifically Hashimoto's and hypothyroidism. So definitely, if you can, go get blood work done. And then, like I said, with therapy, I also did meditating and positive affirmations, and my therapist really got me onto this because my therapist from 2020, we were working on binge eating together. She really encouraged me to ask myself why. Just ask myself why a bunch of times. Like, why do you want to lose weight? Why do you eat the foods you eat? Just ask yourself why. And then once you answer it, ask why again. And then once you answer it, ask why again. So that's when I really kind of like was like, okay, I really need to do this for myself because I love myself. I had never said I love myself before. Like, that's how much I was like cringing at the fact that I had to be nice to myself, because I've always been so mean to myself, and I still am. It's a work in progress, but it's so much easier to be nice to myself now because I've been working on being nice and saying nice things about myself and just giving myself the credit that I haven't really given myself. So I think a lot of us struggle with giving ourselves the respect and the love that we deserve in order to lose the weight. And I know that was my main issue, because as soon as I started working on really trying to say positive affirmations and just like listening to really calming things before bed, and just taking up like a part of my day out to not be on my phone, not be on any social media, and just have like 10 to 15 minutes of quiet time where I might even say out loud like, I love myself, I am a good person. Just that alone like made a huge difference. So that was in the winter of 2020, the beginning of 2021. I mentioned I use calorie counting apps. I obviously mentioned I use Noom. I did use MyFitnessPal, but I don't recommend it to everyone, especially if you think you'll become too concerned with calorie counting. For me, I kind of like to look at my weight loss as like a science project. So I kind of just look at the numbers as like data, but I don't really like let it mean too much to me. It's just like a data point on a graph. That's all I look at it as. And I just want to make sure that the graph has like nice data. That's why I like filling it in. But that's just me. I like Excel sheets and that kind of stuff. So that's like, for me, it doesn't bother me, but if you think it's gonna become an issue, I don't think it's necessary at all. So that's what it really helped me like develop, is like a general idea of like how much I should be eating so that I'm not overeating. And then once I tracked for a few months, and this was only in January and February of this year that I like really started doing that. I didn't track my food much at all in 2020. It was mostly 2021 that I tracked. I definitely don't think it's something that you should do long term. But I definitely think it's helpful short term to just get an idea of like what foods you should eat. And then speaking of diet, because I have a few different autoimmune conditions, I definitely am more concerned with the actual food I'm eating. So I have dabbled with the autoimmune protocol diet. It's not meant to be a long-term diet because it is so restrictive, but it is meant to help you find your triggers. And I kind of already have a good idea of like what foods don't really mesh well with me. And so I did end up cutting out gluten and dairy just for 2020. That's all I focused on with my therapist in 2020, was cutting out gluten and dairy. And I didn't work out at all. All we focused was on just kind of cleaning up my diet a little bit and then not binge eating. So we just focused on like really being mindful and present with what I'm eating and really appreciating the food, but not like going overboard. And that really helped a lot. And then in 2021, I was like, okay, like maybe I'll focus a little bit more on cleaning up my diet a little bit. So I really tried to cut down on all my like extra grains and sugars as much as I could, because I don't think that everybody needs to do that, but in my case with my autoimmune conditions, those really cause a lot of inflammation in me. So just cutting out anything that causes a lot of inflammation will help. I definitely started to get a little bit more lax just as I had kind of completed more of my weight loss because I just think it's a little bit more, I don't know, easy to balance long term. So I was like, I'll give myself a little leniency here and there, but like as long as I'm still being consistent here and here. And it still worked out for me. So like I've kind of been mentioning, the bulk of my weight loss actually started in January of this year. Let me just show you the weight graph and then I'll show it like on the screen too. But so you can see the drop off of when the year changed. So before this drop off right here, this was all 2020 and this is all 2021. Just to give you context. So I had only lost like, I think I got down to like 245. So I had lost like maybe 20 pounds between May and December 2020. Then in January, I was like, okay, it sounds so cliche to do a New Year's resolution, but I'm gonna do it. So I did do a New Year's resolution and I was like, I'm just gonna commit to fully going into like consistency. Like I just wanna work on consistency. So I had actually seen Amy Macedo post about her New Year's resolutions and how she was gonna work on losing weight, and I actually thought that they were really helpful. So I did them myself and I'll show you what I did. That kind of brings me into the calendar that I use to track workouts and stuff like that. So I had decided to start taking progress pictures, measurements, tracking my workouts, and then tracking all my food and doing just all of that consistently every day, which sounds like a huge change to make, but I think I was mentally ready to do it. I just said, even if it's an inch better every day or 1% better every day, at least I'm doing something towards my goal. And I was kind of feeling like so down in the dumps at that point that I was like, something is better than nothing. So the craziest thing I can do is to try, and maybe I might lose weight. If I don't lose weight, then whatever, I just start again. But the craziest thing that can happen is that I'll actually lose weight and it will actually work. And it did. Consistency is the biggest thing. That's the thing I had really never had before, was my mental health wasn't in the right place. I had never been truly consistent before. Yeah, so I'll just show you my calendar. I had given myself a goal to not eat sugar But as you can tell from my calendar, that was not a thing. So you can see I gave myself some goals and I just marked down whenever I made those goals. But I just told myself if I can do them as often as possible and still track my calories and still do this and still do that, at least like if I was keeping track on this calendar and trying a little bit every day to do something towards my goal, even if it was just like, oh, I just ate healthy and I did some yoga while I watched a TV show. Like that, it could be as simple as that, but at least I did something. Something she said really helped me as well. Think of it like a chain, and even if you do a little bit like every day, it doesn't have to be a lot, just don't break the chain. So just do something every day, and just the motivation is to not break the chain by missing a day. And then eventually once you start seeing the results, I mean, the motivation speaks for itself. You're not going to be motivated every day, but you will be motivated by the results you're seeing. And then I had another calendar when I mentioned that I take measurements every month. This is another way that I can kind of just see from month to month my measurements. Technically in January, my starting weight was 244 pounds. After just January, I had lost almost 9 pounds just in January from being consistent and making like a really big change from December. And then this is where I'm at today. Yeah, I just filled it out a few days ago, and I really find it motivating to just look at the numbers, because I think over time you just don't realize how far you've come. So to be able to look back at just like the amount of inches I've lost is just so crazy to me. But it really makes me feel proud of how much work I've put into losing weight. For progress pictures, I don't take them at a certain time, because honestly for me the hardest part is progress pictures, because I still don't like love looking at myself in the mirror or at pictures, but I try to remember to take them like maybe every few months. I still feel like sometimes I don't look that much different, so even in the photos I feel like the difference doesn't look that much, but on the scale and in my measurements it shows. So that's just really important. I feel like measurements and progress pictures really show a huge difference, even if you feel like maybe you haven't made a difference, because it's hard to see over time. But when you look back, it is really surprising to see how much progress you've made, and I think it's just all the more motivating to keep going. I am more interested in like athletic type goals now, because it's really motivating too. And I don't think I've really discussed the workouts I did up until this point in the video. I did mention that I did at-home workouts, and I just did living room workouts at the end of the day before I went to bed, and it was usually like either yoga or like some type of like HIIT or dance cardio. And I ended up really enjoying dance cardio because it didn't feel like something I dreaded at the end of the day. It was just kind of like a fun thing to put on, and I was happening to be working out at the same time. So I did those types of workouts, and then as soon as it kind of got a little bit more safer out, to me anyway, I started walking outdoors more, and I just prefer outdoor walks now. That's my preferred method of working out. I have gone to my apartment gym a few times this summer, but I really don't prefer the gym just right now. So I just prefer working out outside and going on walks, and it's just the best. Find some sort of workout that you really enjoy. Just don't force yourself into anything that you're not going to consistently enjoy. That's why I think almost everyone recommends walks, because just they're the best thing ever. So walking is my preferred choice of exercise. And that pretty much sums up my weight loss journey. This was an extremely lengthy video, and I said I wasn't gonna ramble, and I still did, so I'm sorry. I'm really glad if you watched this far, so thank you so much for supporting me and listening to me. And I really hope that this helped inspire you, to motivate you, to just give you that little extra push if you need it. And I truly think this time I was able to lose weight because I started being nice to myself.